Hi, this is Matt Donegan from Challenger Stories. I'm here with Derek Sleater, founder of Sunday Care Therapy, who are pioneering a new way to deliver home care. Derek, what are you doing that is so revolutionary?
Thanks for the great introduction. What are we doing that's so revolutionary? Well, first and foremost, home care has changed a lot over the last couple of years. We've got an aging population who are unfortunately not aging more healthy. And the way that society is at the moment, we've changed a lot from family supporting family to more and more people living alone. So the benefits of something like Sunday Care Therapy is we are increasing your quality of life. We're increasing your choice and control, increasing your well-being, increasing your independence, all while hopefully saving you money as well.
Okay, I mean, that sounds amazing, but how? Because it almost
Sure.
sounds like you're reversing me back in time, but that's not the case, is it? You haven't got a time machine.
No,
So what is it? What
we
is it you do?
don't.
How do you deliver that?
So the difference between us at Sunday Care Therapy and your standard care agency, and there is a lot. So at the moment with the CQC, there's over 10,000 different providers registered just in England alone who are delivering home care. And that's from your absolute smallest provider where you might be just delivering to one client to some of these massive juggernauts who might be franchises who literally will have 40, 50, 60,000 hours a week being delivered. What makes us completely different is we are one of the only CQC registered home care providers that has been found and run by occupational therapists, which makes us completely unique. And just to give clarification, an occupational therapist is somebody who enables you to do the things that you want to do but can't do anymore due to an injury or illness. So who is better to deliver care than a therapist who can go out, assess what skills you have, look at modifying the environment and training the staff that work with you to work holistically, specifically to you.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I understand conceptually what that does. What does it do for me? You mentioned at the beginning you were talking about the benefits. So the benefits that it delivers. How does it deliver those benefits? I understand that you come from an occupational therapy background. What does that mean in terms of the care that you deliver, and very importantly, because it is a massive question here, what those costs of that care is?
Yeah, it's a great question. So how is it different? Everybody's going to say that they do holistic assessments and they try to individualize care plans. But as I said, we're one of the only providers that is founded by an occupational therapist. So we look at your strengths, what you're able to do for yourself. And we don't call our staff carers, we call them care partners, because the concept is they work with you rather than doing things for you. It's not going to be a quick 15-minute call, in and out, change a pad and gone. It's going to be going in, setting up the environment, talking to the person, doing social interactions, getting them to do as much as they can for themselves so that they regain lost skills. A good example of that is we just had a client who started with us not 3 weeks ago. She was discharged from hospital maybe 2 months ago, and she had another provider. Again, a really good provider. I'm not here to put down any of the other providers that are out there, but they work at the status quo. They're not therapists, they're not healthcare professionals. They go out and they deliver the care the way that it's prescribed to be delivered. And in that space of time, the woman who'd been discharged from hospital not only didn't regain lost skills, started to get worse. And in the space of a week working with us, where we have an occupational therapist and a physiotherapist going in and supervising and managing that care, she's gone from not being able to stand to being back walking with a frame. So that in itself just speaks volumes about how it's improving somebody's quality of life. And then when we look at it from a cost savings perspective, as therapists, we want to enable you to do as much as you can for yourself. And that to us means not having double ups. 90% of the calls that are out there that are double ups, so that means two members of staff are going in to assist, we strongly believe is overprescribed care. And the reason why it's overprescribed is mostly because of risks. People are too frightened. They think, oh, you're at risk of falls, we need to have two people. When they're not looking at it from a holistic strength-based approach, and also looking at what equipment is available. When we prescribe our care, we're looking at, first and foremost, what can you do for yourself? If there's parts of the care you can't do for yourself, what equipment is there to support you to be able to do that for yourself? And then we bring in the carer or the care partner at the end to facilitate it. So we're not there to pick you up and manually lift you. We're there to enable you to do as much as you can for yourself, which means instead of having two people and double the cost, now you're down to one person and potentially half the cost.
Yeah, okay. So I understand it. I understand it conceptually, and I can understand how that might help practically. I think the intriguing thing for me is I look back to a lecture I saw a few years ago in which the lecturer said we can extend lifespan, but the real challenge isn't extending lifespan, because as more and more cures for diseases come online, the better we get at medicine. Actually, the thing that we are failing to do is we are failing in extending health span. So actually, it's not just about keeping people alive, it's keeping people alive and valuing their own life, isn't it? So,
Completely.
So that's what Sunday care therapy is
Yes.
geared towards. It's not about extending life or maintaining a life. It's about getting quality of life back, increasing health span.
Exactly. And the way that we do that, we primarily are looking at 5 different aspects to somebody's life. Regardless of what your diagnosis is, if we can get these 5 points right, then we know that we're going to not only extend your life expectancy, but extend the quality of life that you have. So we're going to be looking at exercise. We see every one of our care calls as potential for you to be able to be doing exercises. We're going to be looking at social interaction. When we're going in and seeing you, we're not just there to go in and out. We're there to be part of your social circle, part of your friendship, even we've got to the stage where people are like your family. We're looking at your diet. So we're making sure that the diet is tailored to your needs. If you're an older adult, are you having enough protein coming in? And how can we supplement it if you've got difficulties with swallow? Another thing that we look at is your sleep hygiene. Are you sleeping enough during the night? Are you waking up during the night? Are you having naps during the day? We can change the whole environment, look at mood lighting, looking at different types of sound exclusion, all this kind of stuff for your sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
And then the final thing we're going to be looking at is your stress management. So if we can get all these aspects right, not only are we keeping you healthier for longer, extending your life expectancy, but it's your quality of life so that you're living a happy life.
It's health span, right? It's about
Definitely.
health span. So, and I've been to lectures, I've seen things, talks about this, and I really understand it. I myself had a parent who had dementia and needed at-home care or in-home care, and it's really tough. I mean, sometimes you've got people who are, with all the best will in the world, perhaps not super qualified. They might be coming from a good place, and they've obviously had a degree of training, but they're not medical practitioners, and you've got someone who's fundamentally quite ill. If they're stuck at home, then they have an ailment or a number of ailments which need to be treated or cared for in a different way.
Completely.
So, but it does strike me, and I'm sure you're going to say it's the complete opposite. Having trained practitioners come in at home, isn't that way more expensive than getting someone to just come in, shuffle around a bit of paper, make sure that someone's gone to the bathroom and then leave after 40 minutes? What's the difference?
Oh, yeah. So we're found and run by HCPC registered therapists, but the vast majority of the care being delivered is being delivered by unqualified, and I'm using inverted commas for that, unqualified staff. But realistically, like just in 1 week, somebody might be doing 30, 40 hours of care, and then they're bolstering that knowledge by online training. They're having specific training for each client, and they're learning and developing as they go. When we do our inductions, we're saying it's like riding a bike. When you first start, you have to think of everything that you're doing all the time. And then we teach people to reflect on what they're doing. And it turns from reflecting on stuff. So they'll go out, they'll learn something, they'll apply it, they'll come home, reflect on it. And then over time, changes into reflection in action. So they'll get to a new client's house and they'll go, okay, I've seen somebody before with this type of dementia. I've seen somebody before with this kind of mannerisms. I've seen somebody before with this type of equipment. And even though they don't have that piece of paper, because of the support that they're getting from qualified therapists, it turns our regular unqualified staff into people I would trust way more than half the therapists that are out there.
Yeah, well, of course, because I've got the backup and support. I think, and I'm not being disparaging about your competitors, because I'm sure they come in many shapes and sizes, but my direct experience was that, you know, some of the carers that visited my mother when she was at home had no medical qualifications whatsoever. They might have come in from a good place, or someone's just picking up a little bit of extra cash, to be honest with you. And you kind of do worry about the kind of level of care. If you've got somebody that's medically trained overseeing these people, and the care that this person's getting, and raising a red flag if they were getting reports back of the health of the patient, then it's got to be an improvement, surely. It has to be. We know that dementia is a massive issue. It's an issue now. We've got a growing population. What do the numbers look like? How big is the problem?
It's scary. You might want to sit down for this one. So the Alzheimer's Society are saying at the moment, 1 in 3 people who are born now will go on to develop some form of dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's dementia, vascular dementia, Lewy bodies dementia. So a third of the population in the next 30 years will go on to develop some type of dementia. So when we think of dementia at the moment, it is already the most expensive form of care. Not only the most expensive financially, but time-wise as well. It takes up, so you know firsthand if you've lived through it, it takes up so much time. If we were to take the 2 other most expensive care aspects, so we're looking at cancer care and heart attacks, and added them together, they would not even come close to how much we are spending on dementia care. So it's startling to think what is going to happen in the future. And my personal background, the reason why I got into this is I had an elderly relative, an aunt, who I would go to see every Sunday, which is why we're called Sunday Care Therapy, in homage to her, because she said it was her favourite day of the week when I'd come see her.
That's lovely.
She moved in with me because she was constantly in and out of hospital. And the last time she went into hospital, they said she's just going to go home, no changes to her care, no changes to equipment. And I knew from my professional background, best case scenario, it would her be back in hospital within a week. And reality would she wouldn't survive another fall. So she moved in with me for 5 years. And in those 5 years, that's when I came to realize no matter how high I got up in my career, if I wanted to see a change in care delivery, it had to be from the grassroots up. It does not matter how high you get. I mean, the Prime Minister could say we have to change care, but unless the agencies who are delivering the care and the carers with their feet on the ground actually get new training, new knowledge, new ways of working, nothing is going to change. And that's why we started Sunday Care Therapy.
It's a big question. You're probably going to give the answer that I expect here. Is what we're currently doing for home care, is it broken? Does it need fixing?
Yes, it's completely broken. 20 years ago, I was at conferences where they were saying this is the hour, we need to make changes. And what has changed in the last 20 years? Absolutely nothing. If we look at the survival rates for CVA, or people who are having strokes, 15% of people now survive that 20 years ago they wouldn't have survived. Those people are now being discharged back home. And what is the difference between care now and 15 years ago? Absolutely nothing. You don't need any qualifications. At most, all you need to do is have a clear DBS and maybe do an online training course. So how is it fair that we are sending not only staff out into these situations, but expecting people who are at the worst times in their life to be cared for by people who do not have the skills or experience for it? And this is no disparaging on the existing providers. It's that they haven't been given the clear instructions and goals that we need.
Yeah. So how do you break the status quo? How do you break it? Because it seems fundamentally like Sunday Care Therapy has been set up clearly to break the status quo. You've got a different model of care. you are actually making some pretty good inroads. But how do you break a system?
Yeah, I'd like to know if you can tell me. That would be great. Like I said, I really do believe it is exposure. So more and more people finding out about us. So as a provider in the world of care, we are what we'd call a micro provider. We're so small. We only have like 44 staff, roughly about 40 clients. In the world of care, we're absolutely tiny. Our reach is massive. We've been asked to lecture at universities. We have been asked to present at the Alzheimer's Dementia Care Show 2 years in a row. At the OT show this year, we've been asked to present at that. We've presented at the UK Care Show. We've presented at NADEX, all because people are understanding what we do is completely different. And not only is it completely different, it is essential. There is no time left. We have to make the changes to care now. My goal is that more and more people will get on board with this concept, that social services, the NHS, ICB boards will go, all right, Sunday care therapy are doing things completely different. How can we copy that? And that is like the greatest form of flattery. There is so much out there that needs to change. Us as one single provider will never be able to do it. But if we keep pushing and pushing and pushing, hopefully other people will see the concept and copy it.
Yeah. Well, and you're looking to scale the business anyway. I mean, how long
definitely.
I didn't ask this question in the beginning, but how long has Sunday Care Therapy been active?
In my infinite wisdom, I quit my job in February 2020 and we went straight into the pandemic. Officially, we did not get up and running until December 2020, but we were in lockdowns. Yeah. So it was really end of 2021 before we got patient one. So I'm going to say 4 years, but we really had like a 2-year hiatus because of COVID.
So you've got challenges around growth because this isn't a model that everybody's conversant with. You've got your customer is who? Is it who is the customer? Who pays for it?
Realistically, the vast majority of our customers at the moment is private clients because they're realizing that they don't have the support that they want when they're being discharged from hospital or they're in care homes and they don't want to be in care homes. So we're taking them out of care homes. But the goal would be to get more and more social services contracts and ICB contracts because that is where the change is really going to happen.
Yeah, okay. There's the thought leadership piece, which is obviously going to help, but it's when it comes down to it, it's about pounds and pennies as well, isn't it? I guess. I mean, 44 staff.
It does come down to pounds and pennies, and the really interesting thing is we have done projects with the NHS and with social services and shown that the way that we work is so much more cost effective. We worked with, I'm not going to name any names, but we did work with one social services on their discharge to assess pathway, so getting people out of hospital, and we took their most complicated cases where we would work directly with the hospital to get them discharged. We would do their therapy assessments once home. We would prescribe the equipment that they required. The project lasted for 3 months and had a budget of 20,000. Based on that, we saved them 80,000. We did another project with another NHS, again the same concept, but it ran for longer and was slightly bigger. And we did a projected annual savings of over 1 million.
Wow. So you've got the case studies, you've got the data.
We've got the case studies, we've got the data. We just don't have a big enough turnover at the moment to be able to go for those bigger contracts.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Obviously, the healthcare system is difficult to get through. Massive organisations, the centralised care system amongst the big providers, really. But that just seems like a huge no-brainer. I mean,
it does. But when you're talking to people about economies of scale, so it might be more expensive for us to go in initially, but we'll prove that we will save you money in the long term versus a massive provider who will be cheap off the get-go.
Yeah.
So procurement look at cheap straight away and go, oh, well, we'll have that. That's cheaper.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to say, no. It's based on merit, experience to the latter.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's pretty mind-blowing, really. I mean, the figures that you mentioned earlier on, that the 1 in 3 are going to have dementia is a really frightening number. When you think about the burden on society currently, and then you think about the burden on society in 20 years,
Oh,
That's
completely.
a huge shift and really staggering numbers.
But the most
Go ahead.
But the most important thing is they are startling figures and startling numbers, but we have a proven system where we can not only arrest the development, so stop the development of cognitive disorders such as dementia, but we have proven with research that we can reverse the symptoms. So if we have a care agency like us who get in at the right time, not only are we going to arrest the development, so stop this person from getting worse, but we can regain lost skills even if they do have a diagnosis of dementia. And there's lots of research to prove this. As a therapist, I've done courses with Ulster University where they have a whole section just on neurocognitive rehabilitation. We divide dementia up into 7 different stages. And if we can get in at stage 3, which is what we call a mild cognitive impairment or an MCI, so this is just before you get your dementia diagnosis, only 50% of people at that stage will go on to develop dementia. And if we get in right there at that point and do the right exercises, all the things we talked about before, diet, nutrition, sleep, stress management, social interactions, if we get in there, we can stop a whole cohort of people from getting a dementia diagnosis.
Whoa. That's staggering. I had no idea that there was the potential to do that. I was of the opinion that the road to dementia, once those plaques had started forming, in the case of many dementias, that you couldn't stem the tide. But I had no idea that you could stem the tide, because surely that's the thing that you need to do, because that's prevention.
Completely.
When there is no cure, you need prevention, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
There's so much research at the moment. I would definitely recommend a book called The Alzheimer's Solution. Really, really excellent read by a husband and wife, Dr. Shiraz, both doctors. The most interesting part about it is they're based in Loma in California, which is one of the blue zones. So a blue zone is an area where people on average live to be over 100, but they're not just living to be over 100, they're functional. So they're still at 100, going out into society, they're not on medication, living full lives. And across the road from Loma is a Mexican area where the average life expectancy is in the 70s, and unfortunately people are dying from CVAs, heart attacks, more and more dementia. And the doctors who were here were looking at, what is the difference? How come if I live on this side of the road, I'll live to be 100 and be able to still drive, or if I live on this side of the road, I'll be lucky to get to 70 without having a stroke? And it all came down to those factors. It's all about lifestyle and making sure that you are eating the right foods and exercising and going to sleep. And a huge part of it is social interaction as well.
Yeah.
One of the really interesting things about like a city life, particularly London, is most people don't even know their neighbours.
Yeah, true.
And we are designed to be social creatures.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was said by some of the care home workers during COVID was the decline of patients in their care, mental decline of patients in their care when they didn't have their interaction with their families. They weren't able to engage with them properly. Might have been able to wade through a window. They couldn't really understand what was going on. And actually the decline in those patients was swift. So just that validates the whole issue about what's really required in care for dementia. So we've talked about some pretty heavy subjects. What's quite inspiring is that actually there potentially is a different way, a way that we can provide better care for our loved ones, to give them health span and not lifespan, because they're not the same, to make their life have more meaning, more purpose, which is another thing about blue zones, of course, is purpose and meaning of life. Doing good in the world was another one of the big issues, big causes of having that cognitive ability at older age. Let's talk about what inspires you. So you've mentioned a publication just now, a book about dementia. And about how we can start to deal with it differently. Who inspires you on your business journey? Because you're running a business, right? It's not not-for-profit. It is a business.
It is a business.
It's a business in a huge sector. You've already pointed out the size of the problem in the UK. So in that respect, it's quite for want of a better word, it's quite an exciting sector to be in. And a lot of different businesses are involved in that. You've given us some of the background because you said about why the name of the company is Sunday Care Therapy. And I love that personal story. So was there someone in your life or someone in business that inspired you to set up on your own? I know you've all explained why you needed to provide the shift, but was there someone that you looked at and you went, they can do that, I can think I could do something similar?
Sure. So the main inspiration, without a doubt, is always going to be my aunt. Seeing how difficult life was for her, and then having care come in and seeing the impact that good care versus bad care could have on her. So she was the whole inspiration behind starting the company. Looking at, because I would never, if you came to me 10 years ago and said, oh, you're going to be an entrepreneur who starts their own company, I would have laughed at you. I was like, there's absolutely no way that is ever going to happen. But as soon as I started looking into it, and looking into the health space, there's lots of like really amazing pioneering leaders in this space. So one of the companies called Seating Matters, the OT who owns that, Martina, phenomenal. She's obviously like a very, very clever lady who has grown a business from nothing to one of the biggest health equipment providers in the whole world. Then there's another company called Acora. Their founders started so small and now again are a massive international company. And then if you look at it from a care perspective, I really struggle to pronounce this name, so forgiveness. Patu. He is a doctor who started a care agency. So again, looking at a problem from a different perspective, instead of it from being a HCPC registered therapy perspective, from a NHS doctor perspective. And they've introduced a lot of healthcare technology and they have grown so quickly. I believe they started maybe around 2017. And now are probably one of the biggest providers in the UK. They've had so much investment put into them. I think they're the biggest healthcare industry investment company in the whole of Europe.
Wow. Okay. It's a highly investable area. I mentioned earlier on about the size of the problem, and where you see a big problem, then you see investors coming in because they see there's an ill that needs to be cured. So I can see why, and look, I can see why Sunday Care Therapy could really grow as a business as well. And look, you're thought leaders in this space. Clearly, you're very passionate about care in general, but about doing this the right way, about what the future might be, and that's inspiring. You know, when I do these,
appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, when I do these interviews on Challenger Stories, I'm often inspired by the people that start businesses. Well, I usually am inspired by the people who start businesses because it's a challenging thing to do. It can be all-consuming. But when I meet a business owner who's started a business because they knew that was the only way that they were going to change a fundamental aspect of care in society, that has a bigger purpose, a bigger meaning. Often I look at vision, mission and purpose inside a business, and you've got that in spades. You really have.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's truly inspiring. Do you know what, Derek? I'm going to leave the interview at that stage because it's actually made me feel touched what you're doing. And so look, I'm just going to say goodbye. So Derek, it's made me feel quite emotional. Let's keep in contact. I really want to know what's happening. How are you going to change things? How are you going to change society up? It's an important thing that you do, genuinely. So
I
Derek,
really appreciate that. Thank
welcome.
you for your time.
You're more than welcome, Derek. It's inspiring. So Derek Sleater of Sunday Care Therapy, thank you. Let's keep in contact. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks.